Rick van Nieuwenhauser, President and CEO of Trilogy Metals. Welcome, Rick.
Perfect. Well, good morning, and we're a little bit behind schedule. I'll try to keep on track here. I will be making forward-looking statements, obviously. We are a high-grade copper story. We have a significant amount of zinc. We have a significant amount of zinc, cobalt, and precious metals. We're in Alaska, safe rule of law jurisdiction, United States of America. This is a district exploration play. We're focused on two projects. We just published a pre-feasibility study at Arctic. It's an open pit, 5% copper equivalent deposit. There's nothing else like it on the planet. It'll be the highest grade open pit copper mine in the world. About 20 kilometers away, we have the Bornite project, which is still early stage exploration. We're already 6 billion pounds of copper, and we're still exploring and finding more. So I'll update you on that as well. Just some highlights from the pre-feasibility study at Arctic. That was the technical report was just published. 43 million tons of over 2% copper, over 3% zinc, plus the lead and some precious metal credits. We'll be producing on an annual basis, average about 80,000 tons of copper, 100,000 tons of zinc, 30,000 ounces of gold, and 3 million ounces of silver. So as a silver mine, it'd actually be a typical Mexican silver producer at 3 million ounces. Post-tax NPV, 8% discount, 1.4 billion. This is a real project. Our shareholder base, we just raised $28 million in a financing. All of our major shareholders participated in that financing, so we continue to have good shareholder support. We have about $40 million in cash and no debt. And one of our large shareholders includes South32, of course. You can see our institutional shareholder base there is mostly New York. We're mostly trade in New York. We're about 90% trading in New York and only about 10% in Canada. We have some shareholders here in Hong Kong and also in Europe. We're advancing this project with three main partnerships. The first was with Nana Regional Corporation. This is an Alaska Native corporation. We've signed an agreement with them. It's a business relationship. They will receive a royalty, an NSR royalty, and an additional NPI royalty if everything works out well. We work closely with Nana with our community engagement. This is an important part of developing any mine today. Obviously, having a partnership with Nana doesn't guarantee social license, but it certainly goes a long way to achieving it. Nana is a pretty special native corporation in Alaska because they own the Red Dog mine, largest zinc mine in the world. So they have a lot of experience with mining, over 30 years now at Red Dog. It's generated $1.5 billion of royalties for their shareholders over the 30 years. So they understand mining and they want a second mine in their region. Our second partnership's with ADA. This is the Alaska Industrial Development Export Authority. Their job is to build infrastructure in the state of Alaska, and that's what they're doing, to build a road, a 200-mile road that'll connect the Ambler Mining District with the existing infrastructure in the state of Alaska, which will allow us to truck our concentrates down to Fairbanks and then catch the Alaska Railroad down to the port of Anchorage, where we'll ship our concentrates overseas, probably most likely here to Asia. That project is currently in the final phases of permitting. I expect to have permits roughly this time next year, maybe early second half of next year, and then 2 years of construction, which fits perfectly with our development timeline. Our third partnership is a financial one with South32. Of course, South32 was spun out of BHP, multi-commodity company with a global reach, but they were not spun out with any copper assets, and we are basically their investment in copper. Their business arrangement is a $10 million option payment per year for 3 years. We're in year 2, so they've already made the second year payment. At the end of 3 years, they can exercise an option to purchase 50% interest in our projects by contributing $150 million, which represents about 150% premium over what we have expended on the project over time. So 3 good partnerships to advance our projects. Let me just introduce you to Arctic. It's here in the middle of this volcanogenic massive sulfide belt. It's a 100-kilometer long belt of polymetallic deposits. The deposit sits on the side of a mountain. 43 million tons. I've repeated the grades: 2% copper, 3% zinc, a little bit of lead in the precious metal credits. It's mineable in an open pit mining scenario, but about a 7-to-1 strip ratio. You can see the red there are the massive sulfide layers. With about a 50 million ton pre-strip, we get down to the ore quick, and with a 1-year ramp up, this made a huge improvement in the overall development scheme of the project. $780 million of initial capital, plus another 150, 160 in sustaining capital, and then closure costs bring the total to just over $900 million. That includes the 17% contingency. You can see the people who've developed this project for us. Senko developed the mill and the overall pre-feasibility approach. Amick Foster Wheeler did the mine plan, and SRK did everything to do with tailings and waste and water management. Here are the highlights from the pre-feasibility study. I won't go over them in detail, but it's a 10,000 ton a day operation, so a modest size. Again, you're producing 125 million pounds of, 160 million pounds of copper, 200 million pounds of zinc, 30,000 ounces of gold, and 3 million ounces of silver. Your net cash cost, net of the byproduct credits, is 15 cents a pound. That's a $3 margin on today's copper price. Today's metal prices, you're generating about $500 million in annual cash flow. Very low capital intensity, about less than half the industry average, and a 2-year payback on capital. So this is an extremely high-quality project. We'll be producing 3 different concentrates. Copper con about 30% with a little bit of silver thrown in. Our zinc con's about a 59% zinc con, so at the high end of the spectrum there for concentrates. No deleterious materials in either the copper or the zinc. And our lead con is essentially a precious metals con. It contains about 70 ounces of silver and an ounce of gold. And of course, that's where most of the value in the lead con lies. So that's Arctic, and you can see there's a whole belt of these other deposits there. We've got about 40 million tons of historic resources outlined there. We'll over time bring those into the current 43-101 category. Meanwhile, we'll continue to explore at Bornite, where South32 is generously giving us $10 million last year, and we'll spend another $10 million this year. We've already outlined 125 million tons of 1% copper in open pit and 58 million tons of almost 3% copper in an underground mining scenario. Last year's drilling basically doubled the size of the footprint. We've got, as I said, the open pit and underground resources that have already been reported on, plus the expansion drilling that we plan to do this year. We'll both do expansion on last year's drilling and internal infill drilling to augment the resources. I think we'll probably be in the 10 billion pounds of contained copper when we get done with the resource estimation based on this year's drilling. And of course, what we're really excited about is the cobalt. We've known we've had cobalt in the resource here for some time. We've done a lot of work on this over the last 6 to 9 months. Identifying that most of our cobalt occurs as cobaltiferous pyrite, which is a good thing because then we can concentrate that in a pyrite. When we do the copper con, we get about a 35% copper con, and the pyrite is rejected from that. So we'll end up getting about 80% of our cobalt reporting to about 5% of our mass. We'll be doing more work on that as time goes on. Here's our camp. We're getting ready for another very busy field season up here. We're in a friendly jurisdiction in Alaska. It's about resource development in the state of Alaska. We have a low CapEx, low OpEx project, high quality asset. We'll continue to advance that through feasibility and permitting. We're financed for that. And meanwhile, we'll continue to spend South32's money and see how big we can make Bornite. Lots of upcoming news. Cobalt resource at Bornite. We're doing an ore sorting study at Arctic to augment the ore grades delivered to the mill. We'll have a summer program focused on getting ready for the permitting application, so we'll do a lot of work on the tailings and waste facility. Meanwhile, we're reporting drill hole results from Bornite and a cobalt resource here in the next month. So stop by the booth. I'll be here the next couple of days. Look forward to catching up with you. Thank you.